Okay, my name's James Glazier. I teach at the local elementary school here. I teach 5th grade math, and they deal a lot with fractions and decimals, a little bit of conversion, even perimeter, area, and volume.
Okay.
Do you use anything like that?
Yeah, I use it pretty often actually. I mean, after you learn it, it's more secondhand, but you're just doing something, and then it just kind of happens in your head, and it helps out for like just basic things during the day.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Anything in particular come to mind how you use math?
I mean, when I have to do things for my car, or like cut like exhaust, or like anything like that, you know, you have to measure it.
So you're measuring things. Okay.
Yeah, you have to
All right.
measure like certain cuts, or like a certain piece of pipe that needs to fit in a certain spot. Like,
Right.
you need to-
Right.
yeah.
So more? Would you say you deal with fractions more than decimals?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you're using math while you're working on your car.
Yeah, I can work on my car all the
Very
time.
cool. I have some boys that probably would like to work on their car, you know, in the future here.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Tell me
Okay,
your name.
fifth graders, here we are starting chapter 12, section 1, and this chapter is all about converting. That is, converting, you know, measurements like maybe inches to feet, or feet to yards, or yards to miles, centimeters to meters, kilometers, that kind of thing. Also, I think they touch on liquid measurements, you know, pints and cups and quarts and gallons and that sort of thing. So we're starting off here, chapter 12, section 1. They're talking about, in this first example here, looks like it says some frogs can jump 11 1/4 feet. What are some other ways to describe that same distance? And so you can see here that 1 foot equals 12 inches. Hopefully you guys knew that. And 1 yard is 3 feet. And that's approximately, if you look at a doorknob, any doorknob on one of the doors to your house or even the classroom, you go from the doorknob down to the floor, that's about a yard. It's also about a meter. A meter and a yard are really close. And then 1 mile is, what do they have here? 1,760 yards. I didn't know that, but I did know that a mile was 5,280 feet. So then in B here, in box B, it says to change the larger units to smaller units, you would multiply. And then in box C here, it says to change the smaller units to larger units, you would divide. And of course they give us the answers to the example here. So 11 1/4 feet equals how many inches, and 11 1/4 feet is 135 inches. And what did they do here? They multiplied the 12, because we know a foot is 12 inches. We multiplied the 12 by 11, and then we multiplied the 12 by 1/4. In other words, what's 1/4 times 12? And they did that here. It's 3. And they just added those up. And then in box C here, it says to change smaller units to larger units, you would divide. It says Ed's frog jumped 11 feet. How many yards is this? Well, first off, you need to know how many feet are in a yard. And we talked about that right up here. 3 feet is in 1 yard. And they did a strip here. And you can just count sections of 3, which looks like they've done that here. So here is 1 yard, and here's another yard, and here's a 3rd yard. And there's 2 single inches left over, or 2 feet left over. So it says 11 divided by 3 is 3 remainder 2. So it's 3 yards and 2 feet. Okay, let's move down here to the convince me. What does it say? It says, in the example above, explain how you could use a mixed number to write 11 feet as an equivalent measure in yards. Well, let's see here. If you remember what a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. So I could write 11 feet equals, we know it's going to be 3 yards and 2/3, 3 2/3 yards. 11 feet is 3 2/3 yard. And because the 2 feet is the remainder, the number 2 is the remainder. And 3 would be a whole. 3 over 3 would equal 1. Okay? All right, so let's move down to the practice here. And this, I think if you guys work on this, it'll help you kind of understand a little bit more about conversion when you give some thoughts to this.
Okay, tell me your name.
Molly Emerson.
Molly, nice to meet you. Like I said, I teach at the local school here, and 5th grade math, and they do adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions and decimals. Do you use anything like that?
I use math all the time.
Like for how? What?
I'm a nurse.
Oh.
And so we have to use it all the time to give medicines and just, figure out basic
Is it more decimals or fractions, would you say?
Lots of fractions.
Okay, okay.
We use some decimals too, but mostly fractions.
Do you ever convert one to the other? Have to do that?
Yeah, actually.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, because we'll have to give like 1.2 mLs of something, and we have to dilute it into another amount, so you have to
Okay, convert it.
So
actually towards the end of the school year they do some conversions, inches to feet, feet to yards, miles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also milliliters to liters, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
what you're talking about. So you have to deal with that a lot.
all the time.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
it. All
Thank
right.
you.
So it says
Take
number
care.
1 here, it says if you want to convert yards to feet, what operation would you use? It would be multiplication. Number 2, if you wanted to convert feet to miles, what operation would you use? And that would be division, because we're going from something smaller to larger. Feet are smaller, miles are larger. So you would use division. And I know this because they just told us that right up above in here. I'm looking at this information here and this information here. Okay. And number 3, what's number 3 say? What are some of the tools you could select to measure length? Explain when you would use them. So I'm going to put this one, this is going to be a class craft question. I'm going to highlight this one. And so I want you guys to think about some of the tools you would use to measure something. I'm not going to be specific about what you're measuring. You can come up with that on your own. And it does say tools. That's an S. That's plural. That's more than one. And then explain how or when you would use them. All right, so there's the first class craft question for some points that I want you guys to do. Okay, I'll do a couple of these with you guys here. And 4 through 8, convert each unit of length. Well, 9 feet equals how many yards? Well, first off, how many feet are in a yard? Well, there's 3 feet in 1 yard, so how many 3s fit into 9? So 9 equals 3 yards. There's, how many 3s fit into 9? So if this represented 9, this whole length here, from here to here, whether it's 9 inches, 9 yards, 9 miles, how many sections of 3 would we have here? This could be 3 of each. All right. Let's see here. How about number 7? 288 inches. 288 inches equals how many yards? Well, first off, there's a couple ways you could do number 7 here. And one is you could divide it by, first divide it by 12, and that would tell you, if you divided it by 12, that would tell you how many feet that would be. And then you would divide that by 3, and that would give you how many yards. Another way you could do it is to figure out how many inches are in 1 yard. So if there's 3 feet in 1 yard, how many inches would that be? Well, how many inches are in 1 foot? In 1 foot, there's 12 inches. And if there's 3 feet in a yard, you would add those up, and what do you get? 36. So 3 feet in 1 yard equals 36 inches. So then you would just take 288 and you would divide it by 36. That's another way to do it. So there's 2 ways I've mentioned you can do it. This one here and do the division here. Either one, that'll work. So I'm not going to do 7 for you. I'll let you guys figure that one out on your own. Okay. In fact, I'll make that one another classcraft question for some points. Let's see here. Let me move down. Let's see here. Okay, 9 and 10, complete the table to show the equivalent measures. So 1 foot equals what? Well, it's 12 inches, obviously. 2 foot, or 2 feet, rather. What's that? That's going to be 24. That's how you do those. Number 10, 1 yard equals 3 feet. So just keep filling those out. You can do that. I'm looking down at 11 through 16. 11 is 3 yards equals how many inches? Well, how many inches are in 1 yard? Well, we just figured that out a moment ago. So 1 yard equals what? 36 inches. So 1 yard equals 36 inches. Oh, it doesn't say 1 yard, it says 3 yards. My bad. I was thinking 3 feet. 1 yard equals 36 inches. So 3 yards, well, what's going to be 3? It's going to be 3 times 36. 3 times 36. And that's going to be 108 inches. All right. How about number 16 here? 6 inches equals how many feet? Well, if 12 inches equals 1 foot, 6, which is half of 12 inches, equals, well, I just said it. That's a half a foot. So 1/2. Okay. Yeah, let's move down to the last page here.
Riley Auto Parts, yes sir.
And so you use math?
Regularly.
No way! I mean, parts, it's just like how many parts do you want? What else is there?
I would say every day I find myself stumped by a math equation that I have to remember how to figure out.
Oh
Yes, sir.
my gosh. Okay, so I'm James, and tell me your names.
Tyler.
Tyler and
Bundy.
Bundy. So,
And I do use math.
okay, you do too.
I do too.
I mean, this is 5th grade math we're talking about. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions and decimals. And
Oh,
you
I'm a
guys
5th
are
grader.
still using that kind of math?
Yes, we are.
More than I am geometry or algebra, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We just figured out our math to see if we had enough money for coffee.
Okay, very cool. Hey, thank you both for your
Problem
time. I appreciate
solving. It says, which number would be greater, the height of a tree in feet or the height of the same tree in yards? Well, which is larger? Or which has a greater length? Maybe that would be a better way to say it. Yards or feet? Well, yards are longer than feet. So there would be fewer yards that would fit into the height of a tree. So let's say there was a tree here. Here's the ground, and here's this tree. Don't make fun of my tree. Okay. Here's my tree, and let me move this out of the way here. And it's a nice looking tree. I need brown. Okay, brown to color the tree. All right. And so let's say this tree from the ground, from this point here, all right, to the top of the tree was let's say 48 feet. All right. So now we know the height of the tree in feet. It's 48. So how would we figure out what that would be in yards? Well, you would just do 48 divided by 3. So 3 goes into 4 once, with 1 left over. Bring down the 8. 3 goes into 18 6 times, so it's 16 yards. So 48 feet equals 16 yards. So the question is, it says which number would be greater? Which is greater, 48 or 16? Well, obviously 48 is bigger than 16. So, so the answer would be the height in feet would be greater because it's a smaller measurement. Now I could throw in inches. Which number would be greater than? Well, then the inches would be, because inches are smaller yet. Okay. All right, maybe that was kind of an over explanation, but yeah, we did it anyways here. So it says the dimensions of the nation's smallest post office are 8 feet. Are 8 feet 4 inches by 3 feet 7 inches. Why would you use the measurement 8 feet 4 inches, 8 feet 4 inches, instead of 7 feet 16 inches? Well, that's because 16 inches, you wouldn't use 16 inches. 16 inches can be converted into what? 1 foot 4 inches. Okay. Let's see here. Help you out with a couple more. How about number 22? It says Roger earns $24 a week mowing lawns. He spends 1/6 of his earnings on lunch and 2/3 of his earnings on music. He saves the rest. How many does he save? Well, first off, you got to figure out how much he spent. So it's going to be 24 times 1/6 equals, I'll just call it X. And then it's going to be 24 times 2/3 equals, we'll call it Y. And then what do? Then you're going to do X plus Y equals, we'll call it Z. Because I don't know what X is or Y is. You're going to have to figure that out. And then equals Z. And then you're going to, it's going to be 24 minus Z equals how much he saved. Okay. Remember 24, how do you figure out 24 times 1/6, you would turn that into a fraction times 1/6. And then 24 over 1, turn that into a fraction times 2/3. All right. Remember, when you multiply whole numbers and fractions, you turn them into a fraction. And I see some cross-canceling we could do here. You guys remember that? We talked about that just a few weeks ago. How many times does 6 go into 6? Goes in once. How many times does 6 go into 24? 4 times. That makes it a little bit easier. So now 4 times 1, remember, just multiply straight across. 4 times 1 is 4. And then 1 times 1 is 1. So 4 over 1 is the same thing as 4. So look at that. I did the first one for you. So in this one, X equals 4. Okay. All right, that's it. I'm just over 15 minutes here. So, yeah, I will talk to you guys later.